We're here today because the UK government decided they'd rather fund genocide than fund benefits for some of the poorest people in the UK.
Shame!
To tell you more about it, we're going to have Reg come up.
We are here today because we've seen social security cuts for hundreds of thousands of disabled people and new powers for unqualified work coaches in job centres who will decide what work-related activities should be carried out. We have already seen the devastation caused by previous so-called welfare reform policies. Evidence from UCL states that almost 150,000 people died as a direct result of austerity and welfare reform policies. Kicking the poor is still somehow viewed as a vote winner, whilst the richest in our country have seen their wealth grow by more than 20% just since the pandemic. The Labour Party have rejoined the attacks on claimants, saying recently that disabled people will not languish on social security sickness support, but will be pushed into work. This is the language of Atos and workfare all over again. It didn't work then, and it won't work now. In Wales, the Welsh Government are increasing the cap on social care costs, and 68% of all people in Wales who died of COVID were disabled. As we watch our benefits and welfare system be stripped away by an increasingly fascist government, we see the staggering amount of money being sent to aid the Israeli government in their onslaught against the Palestinian people who are experiencing a mass disabling catastrophe. Now, I was in my house in November. I spent a lot of time in my house, and my friend, who was also my carer, was making me some lunch. And I was thinking about all the disabled people in Palestine who have lost their carers, people who are not only dealing with threats of death, starvation and displacement from a genocidal regime, but are also doing so without the person who knows their needs and how to support them the best. So there is no disability justice without the liberation of Palestine, and we're here today to say no more benefit deaths and to call on the UK government and all other Western powers to fund welfare, not genocide. Diolch.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Alright, so next up we have Harriet.
I'm going to sit if that's okay, because my joints don't work. So I know that I don't need to spend more time talking about the numerous ways that this government is attacking disabled and chronically ill people in this country, and the dangerous rhetoric by politicians about benefit scroungers and getting disabled people back into work, or the fact that on Thursday, a second coroner in just 3 months linked the DWP and its universal credit benefit system with the death of yet another disabled person. I do want to talk about the fact that our struggles here are connected with the struggles of millions around the world. And as disabled people living in the West, we must stand steadfast in our message that there will never, ever be justice for disabled people without the full liberation of Palestine. The Palestinian people are facing a mass disabling catastrophe, and even before the most recent onslaught that has seen over 30,000 million people murdered on their own land, the Medical Aid for Palestinians said that those living in the occupied Palestinian territory and in Palestinian refugee camps face a lack of opportunities and access to healthcare, education, livelihood and social services, which compound the cycle of disability as both a cause and consequence of poverty. Stigma, discrimination and human rights violations, particularly concerning people with disabilities, frequently go unchecked. Social isolation and marginalisation are particularly prevalent in refugee camps where many adaptations and accessible public infrastructure are not available. Since October, more than 10 children a day on average have lost one or both of their legs and the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund has stated that there is a child amputee crisis. I cannot even comprehend those words. A child amputee crisis. Day after day, we see images of the Palestinian people being killed and mutilated in unimaginable ways, with no healthcare system or hospital treatment. We see disabled people without their mobility aids, and people who menstruate resorting to scraps of tent cloth as sanitary pads. Now, as a woman with endometriosis, I cannot fathom having a flare-up with no warm bed, no painkillers, no medication, no heat pads, no water bottles, and the constant buzz of drones and warplanes over your head. We must continue to raise our voices as disabled people in the West and say that we will not be silent when they continue to slash our benefits in order to fund a genocide. We must take inspiration and guidance from the revolutionary optimism of the Palestinian people, who are currently decorating their tents with lights and lanterns for Ramadan, are getting married in refugee camps and performing shows for children. We must stand strong until we see a free Palestine in our lifetimes. I want to end with the words of French activist and author Frank Barat, who wrote the foreword to On Palestine by Ilyan Pape and Noam Chomsky. We are all inside concerned human beings. We all want to give more than we receive. We all want to live in a world where solidarity and companionship are more important values than individualism and selfishness. We all want to share those beautiful things, experience joy, laughter, love, and experiment together. We are many, and we will prevail. Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Alright, well, all class speakers unfortunately couldn't turn up. So, if anyone wants, so the floor is open to anyone who wants to come up and speak.
I was going to speak. Hello, thank you. I'm John. I'm the founder of Harmony Party UK, which works with the UK's only disabled founded political party. I haven't prepared a speech today because I don't really do that. I just say what I feel. And what I'm feeling right now is hungry. I don't mean that as like a metaphor, I mean that quite literally. I've just had a bacon back, but I'm still hungry because it's the time of the month. It's that time of the month where, because of universal credit and because of I don't get paid enough, I have to make my meals stretch. And because I also have ARFID, unfortunately it's very difficult for me to make meals stretch, because as my variety of food narrows, so does my ability to eat that food. And so I often end up going hungry, even though I have food. So I really empathise with the people in Palestine who are facing starvation in the north, the 750,000 in particular, because that hollowed out sense in your stomach, that gnawing that grows and fills your body day after day. I've experienced it, I've been through it. I went through it when I was a child as well, because I grew up in poverty, and it shocks me today that what we're seeing is a repetition of what existed when I was young, which for a brief time in like my 20s, it felt like we were reversing the tide on. It felt like things like child hunger in this country and the hunger of disabled people in particular was something that was reversing as the amount that they paid us slowly increased. But then austerity came in, and other people have already mentioned just how many people were killed by austerity. But the total in the last 15 years is closer to 500,000 when you factor in the social murder done by the pandemic. And I just want to highlight that if we spent money on food, we wouldn't be hungry. If we spent the money on food and we weren't hungry, there is so much that we could achieve. There's so much more that I could achieve. I spend most of my time, even though I'm hungry, trying to do good for other people. I can't work, but I can do good in the community. And if I wasn't hungry a week of the month, I would be able to do so much more. And if we liberate Palestine, which the people of Palestine are the most colourful and vibrant and amazing people in the world right now to me. And I know many of you feel the same. And if they were liberated, I feel like they would bring that explosion of colour to the world. And I feel the same about disabled people. I feel that if disabled liberation comes, it will bring with it an explosion of liberation to everyone else. And I know the words, we cannot be free until all of us are free are quite overused. But I think that's the core message. And we cannot allow the British government to keep funding genocide while people in this country, disabled or not, I want to stress that point, because there are unemployed people in this country who are hungry, who are not disabled, who have faced generational unemployment, who have faced their children being taken from them for nothing more than being unemployed for generations. I want us to stand up for all of them, for every hungry person, and for the liberation of all. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Hello. Hi. I didn't prepare anything, I've just come up with this on top of my head. So I think that every single penny that we claim, i.e. that we are entitled to from this government, is a penny they don't get to spend on genocide. And therefore that's a net good for the world. And my question to this government, people in that building, is after you gut services, after you actively create more disabled people in this country, who's going to be left to fight your wars? Who's going to be left to do this genocide for you? There's no people left who are going to be willing to stand up for this country when it has provided us no vision, nothing to stand for. And yeah, I've got complex trauma, and I'm just thinking about the fact that every single Palestinian, by default, is disabled, because there's no way that you can live through what they're going through and not be. So there's no way that you can convince me that those aren't my people too. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Thank you.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Okay, do we have any more speakers?
I think we've come here today because poor people and disabled people are precious, they are priceless, and we look at Wales and we look at the world through the lens of their plight and their predicament. But I also think it's very important that we come out here today, because I think when you're poor or disabled, you're rendered invisible, and so it's very important that we become visible. I think when you're poor and on a low income, you're encouraged to internalize, to think that you're somehow a failure, or there's something wrong with you, or a caricature defect. And so it's very important that we have political demonstrations to externalize, to say our poverty is not something that we've done, it's something that's been done to us. Because the decisions that create poverty, they're not created in our communities, they're created by the rich and powerful. Now, a few years ago in 2011, I was involved in an international movement called Occupy Wall Street. For people not familiar with that, in 2011 there was an event called the Arab Spring. In Cairo, millions of people camped out in Tahrir Square. They raised the slogan, "The people demand the fall of the regime." And 18 days later, decades of dictatorship fell. That really created a ripple effect around the world. It turned out to be a bit more complicated, but a lot of people thought, well, if you're fed up, all you need to do is get out onto the streets in large numbers, occupy some sort of public space, and stay there until the power structure meets your demands. And the movement spread to Spain. It was called the Indignados, the indignant, and their slogan was, "We want real democracy now." And we're not objects in the hands of bankers and politicians. And also, they said of their politicians, they don't represent us. Then it spread to New York, and they had a movement called Occupy Wall Street. Their slogan was, "We are the 99%. But the idea was that we all need to unite. It's just this 1% at the top who we need to challenge, and we need to build unity amongst each other. And that movement kind of spread to a movement of sort of tent cities and protest camps across the United States. And eventually arrived in Cardiff, and we had a protest camp here for about 2 months against global inequality. It was mainly maintained by people who were unwaged. Now I've forgotten why I was talking about this, but the reason why I wanted to mention this was during this Occupy Wall Street in America, the police started confiscating PA systems and megaphones. So people invented what they called the human mic, which was because they weren't allowed to use megaphones or these kind of systems. Someone would say a line and then people would repeat it back. So I thought maybe we could try a human mic here. So I'll say something and then if you could repeat it back. I am somebody. I may be on benefits. But I am somebody. I may skip meals. So that my kids can eat. But I am somebody. I may turn off the heating in the winter to save money. But I am somebody. I may go to a food bank. But I am somebody. I must be protected. I must be respected. I must not be neglected. Because I am somebody. Thank you.
I don't know much what I'm going to say, but what's been on my mind is that I probably wouldn't be here if I had been Palestinian. I probably would not have made it at this point in the occupation without access to medication and medical supplies. So for every one of me and every person like you who is here today, there are countless Palestinians who have not made it this far, who have been killed and murdered by the state of Israel and our assistance with it. And we, despite our struggles, are privileged in that respect, maybe that respect only. And we must stand up for ourselves and for others that cannot be with us today, because together we can change things. Thank you.
The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
Right. Very good. Today, I'm sure we all remember and we all felt the effect of over a decade of Tory austerity, over a decade of disabled people on benefits dying unnecessarily for no reason but greed. We have seen in Wales that 68% of the people who died of COVID were disabled people. And we see now that these aren't even being recorded anymore. We're seeing in the COVID inquiry of disappearing WhatsApp messages and no accountability for the choices that they made. We're seeing that they still think that they can punish disabled people, that they can blame us for their own mistakes, that they can scapegoat us and pretend that we are the reason that other people are living in poverty. And we are not going to, and we will not take that silently. We will not say nothing about it. When they are abusing disabled people, letting us die in our homes, when they are funding genocide in Palestine, when they are harming the people of the Congo, when they are ignoring Sudan, we will not say nothing. We will not be silent. We invite you to stay. We have tea, we have biscuits. And hot chocolates. Talk to each other. Be with each other. This is not going to be the. We will do more. And finally, what I always say is free, free.
Palestine!
Free, free.
Palestine!
Free, free.
Palestine!
From the river to the sea.
kids on now. Can I drink? Can I have a tea, please? Yeah, well, we've got a little bit